The Supreme Court says a bakery in Northern Ireland did not discriminate against a customer when it refused to make him a cake supporting gay marriage. The UK's highest court concluded that because the decision was based on objections to the message and not the customer's sexuality, they had done nothing legally wrong. Our senior correspondent Ian Woods reports from Belfast.
It's a ruling which provides food for thought for small businesses who may disagree with what a customer is asking them to do. Whether written in icing or ink, the words may not be to everyone's taste, should they be forced to swallow it anyway. A bakery which refused to put this message on a cake was prosecuted by the Equal Opportunities Commission. Gareth Lee is a gay rights campaigner in Northern Ireland, the only part of the UK where equal marriage is still illegal. But 5 Supreme Court judges decided refusing his cake order was not discrimination.
Their objection was to the message on the cake, and not to the personal characteristics of Mr. Lee or of anyone else with whom he was associated.
2 courts had previously ruled against Asher's Bakery. The £36 cake has now run up legal bills of £500,000.
We always knew we hadn't done anything wrong in turning down this order. After more than 4 years, the Supreme Court has now recognised that, and we're very grateful. Grateful to the judges, and especially grateful to God.
The Supreme Court moved to Belfast for a 2-day hearing on the case earlier in the year. The judges insist the ruling should not diminish from genuine discrimination. But Mr. Lee disagrees.
That made me feel like a second-class citizen, and the judgment today tells me that that's okay.
Back in Belfast, Mr. Lee's fellow campaigners say there are implications way beyond the gay rights issue.
I think there is a fundamental question here as to whether or not a printer printing a particular message is them endorsing that message. The reality is that if you offer a service, you must offer that service to everyone on an equal basis.
At this printing business, they take the view that the customer is always right in what they want written.
It doesn't make you think, if somebody came to me and said, I want a T-shirt that says, I oppose gay marriage, you wouldn't turn that down, even though you get a lot of business from the gay community?
No, I wouldn't.
Because it's business?
It's business, correct.
And you can't afford to turn down business?
Well, yes, correct. That's true too.
It's a sweet victory for the bakers, but leaves a sour taste in the mouths of those who had their cake and ate it. Ian Woods, Sky News, Belfast.
Good evening. A legal battle which started 4 years ago has ended in victory for the owners of a bakery in Belfast. Asher's Bakery had refused to decorate a cake with the slogan to support gay marriage. The UK Supreme Court ruled that the bakery, owned by committed Christians, had not broken any discrimination laws. They said they had objected to the message and not to the customer who placed the order. Our correspondent Emma Vardy has more details.
It's 4 years since gay rights activist Gareth Lee walked into this Belfast bakery to place an order. His purchase of a cake became a bitter legal row over the extent to which businesses can refuse to promote certain views. The cake was to be iced with the message, support gay marriage. Today, the Supreme Court ruled that the bakery's refusal to take that order did not amount to discrimination.
This court has held that nobody should be forced to have or express a political opinion in which he does not believe.
The bakery's owners had previously been sued for discrimination. Today's decision by the UK's highest court to overturn previous rulings marks a hard-fought vindication of their views.
We did not turn down this order because of the person who made it, but because of the message itself. The judges have given a clear signal today. In fact, it couldn't be clearer. Family businesses like ours are free to focus on giving all their customers the best service they can without being forced to promote other people's campaigns.
Gareth Lee spoke of his disappointment at the turnaround.
I paid my money was taken, and then a few days later it was refused, based upon the beliefs of the business owners. That made me feel like a second-class citizen, and the judgment today tells me that that's okay.
Northern Ireland is the only part of the UK which has not introduced same-sex marriage.
It is not pro-Christian.
The so-called gay cake case has been watched closely in Belfast, where there have been protests from those on both sides of this debate.
I'm so glad today that Asher has won the case.
and that takes I'm sure it's a lot of pressure on them.
I feel personally offended, and I feel that the LGBT community would be offended also.
The Supreme Court judges said that the conclusions reached today were not intended to diminish the need to protect people who are gay from discrimination, saying it would be an affront to human dignity to refuse someone a service based on their sexual orientation, but that was not what had happened in this case. Instead, said the court, it was the bakery's right not to print a message with which they disagreed. And this could be a taste of things to come if other businesses wish to refuse to promote political views in future. Emma Vardy, BBC News at the Supreme Court.
With me is our home editor, Mark Easton. Mark, what do you make of the potential legal implications of this ruling?
Well, discrimination law is about ensuring that people aren't treated differently because of their race or their religion or their sexual orientation. It's about people. It's not about messages, and it's not about cake. And that was really the distinction the Supreme Court made today between the message and, in this case, the man. The distinction's important because there are competing rights here. There's the right of the customer to order a cake to promote gay marriage, but there's also the right of the baker not to bake a cake to promote gay marriage. And human rights law actually accepts explicitly that people are not obliged to manifest a belief that they do not hold. But interestingly, I think this judgment goes beyond that. It says the bakers would have been entitled to refuse to bake a cake, whatever the message on the icing. As the judges put it, they could have refused because the cake supported living in sin or a particular political party. And what this means is that, for example, a Muslim printer can refuse to print the Bible, and a Christian printer can refuse to print the Quran. And that is not discriminatory. But there is still a concern here. What is really going on inside the head of that retailer? Is a refusal to, say, print a Quran really about not condoning the messages of the Quran, or might it really be prejudice against Muslims? And that is why I think we may well see some further cases around this issue.
Indeed, Mark, once again, thanks very much. Mark Easton, our home editor there.